Hey there guys, welcome back to part 2 of our application. In part 1 we went over auth and auth context, so both the backend and the front end. In this one, part 2, we're going to be working on login, logout, registration, and we're also going to be starting with the hero section. So with that said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you do enjoy this video, and let's get right into it. So what we want to do is we want to create our nav. So we want to create three things. We want to create our navigation, our login, and our register. So how do we do that? We can come into our components here, a new file, and this is just going to be nav.jsx. Great. RAFCE. And then we can create something else within our component called login.jsx, RAFCE, and then we can create our register.jsx, and this is RAFCE. Cool. Now we're going to use this page.js within our app route, well, within our app folder. So this page.js, we're going to come in here, and for we're going to make this our login. So this route is going to pertain to our login. So let's go ahead and import that. I don't know why it didn't auto import. So let's say import login. There we go. And then we want to create a register route. So within app, not API, let's close out API. Within app, we want to open up a new file, and this file, well, new file, actually it's going to be new folder, and this is going to be called register, and we're going to say new file within register, and this is just going to be page.js. So what we can do is we can just copy this, go to page, and then we can change this to register. Cool. And just take out the login. So now if we open up our application, we can go over to npm run dev. When we open this up, let's see, the initial page should give us a login. So at model/user is not being okay. So that was a problem. Let's see why. And this is within /APIs user, and for some reason this is not being exported. First of all, this should be model, not models. So let's see if that works. No, that gives us another error. So let's see why. Next response is not defined, and this is route number 37. How is it not defined? Let's see why. Okay. All right. All right, just quick debug in there. There we go. So now localhost, when you open it up, should say login, and when you go to the register route, it should say register. So there's a problem there. Let's see. When you go to register, it should say register. So let's look at that register component. Did we save it? Okay, let's try that again. So with components, we have register, we exported it. Now if we come over to app, we have this register page, page.js. So there we go. So now if we come over to register, we see register. I think we just didn't save things properly. So let's quickly run over and do our nav. So if we come over to to components, we can go to navigation. So nav, and let's close out of all of this. So everything works fine. So with nav, what we're doing is we're simply just creating our nav bar, and we're giving it some functions to state that if the user is available, then show this, if not, show that. That's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and do that. So within navigation, what we want to do first is we want to come in here, and we want to go to our layout. So when we go to layout, we want to come over to auth provider, and we want to plug in that nav here. And that's because we want the nav to be above everything within every route and every page we do. So that's why we do this. So now if we come over here, as you can see, that nav is instituted above our register. So that's where it's serving this nav right here. The text is serving as a placeholder. So when we go back, what we want to say is import React, and we're going to just pass in a couple of things. We're going to import use state, use effect, and we're going to be using use ref. Cool. When we do that, what we want to do now, let's see what's going on. Okay, it doesn't like use ref for some reason. Okay, so it's giving us an error right now, and that's because we need to put use client here. There we go. So let's go ahead and save that. And now down here, we want to open another one, and here we want to say npm install. And here we're going to be installing Material UI. So let's go on Google real quick. And here we're going to say Material UI. And let's go ahead and click getting started. And all you want to do is go to installation. You're going to copy this, and that's it. We can come back down here and install that. And then while that's installing, we need one more thing. So let's go over to Google. And then we're just going to search for Material UI icons, and then we're going to go to the first one here. And for the installation, you can see it right here. We're just going to go ahead and copy that, close out of this again, and paste that in there. So as that's done, let's go ahead and clear out of that. We can close this, and now we can import a couple of things from Material UI. So we're going to say import, and this is going to be menu icon from, this is going to be at Material UI icons material. So here we're going to have menu /menu. Cool. We're going to do this for a couple of them. So actually just one more, not a couple. So this is going to be menu icon. This is going to be close icon. And here we're going to have close. Cool. Now we're going to say input. We're going to use auth. There we go. So we're going to not import use auth. And here we're going to be importing Axios as well. We're also going to be importing use router. And make sure we're using Next navigation. And then lastly, we're going to be importing use param, not use param, use path name. There we go. And that's it. That's all. Those are all the things we're going to be importing. So for nav, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the function. However, when it comes to actually building out the navigation, I'm just going to speed run through that because that's mostly CSS. But I will be working out the function logic with you guys. So here, what we want to do first is we're going to say const. And since we're getting this from, okay. Let's make sure this is cool. Cool. So since we're getting this state hooks from use auth, we're going to put this within curly braces. So user set user is equal to use auth. Awesome. And now this, we're going to say const open set open is equal to use state. And this is going to be false. And here we're going to say const menu ref is equal to use ref null. And this is going to say const router is equal to use router. Awesome. And we're going to say const path name is equal to use path name. And this is going to be used to get the current path. So now for the logic, what we want to say is we want to create a handle open for our menu bar. So we're going to say const handle open is equal to, we're going to use a arrow function, set open, and we're going to set it to true. So this is going to open up our menu bar. So here we're going to say const handle close, and here we're going to state, it's also going to be an arrow function. We're going to state set open, and here's going to be false. Cool. Now we want to create our logout function. So we're going to say handle logout is equal to a sync arrow function. And here we're going to state try catch. And for try, we're going to say const response is equal to await axios.get API slash, well, it should be slash API slash logout. And here we should say if response dot status is equal to 200, then we want to set the user to null. And then we want to router.push to the login page. Now for catch error, we're going to say console.error error login out. And then we want to say error. Cool. And that's pretty much it. Now we just want to invoke the use effect. So we're going to say use effect. Cool. And then here we want to say const handle click outside. And this is for when you have the side menu. So handle click outside is equal to event. And for this event, we're going to say if menu ref dot current, and there's no menu ref dot current dot contains event dot target. Then what we want to do is set open to false. So what this is saying is if you click anywhere outside of the menu, so let's show you an example really quickly. So if I go to my application here and I sign in, so if I sign in here and I go over to the menu here, if I click anywhere outside of that menu, it closes. So that's all it's stating right now. So we'll see it in action when we build it out. But that's what this use effect is doing. So we also want to have a document dot add event listener, and this is going to be for different mouse events. So mouse down, I'm going to say handle click outside, and here we want to return document dot remove event listener mouse down handle click outside. So actually all this should be within my use effect. There we go. We can now state const handle item click is equal to set open to false. There we go. So we have this. Now we're just going to build out our navigation. So let's close this out. Let's minimize this a bit. Let's do this and let's do this. So now we can see what we built. Now, like I said, I'm not really going to build it and explain every single step of the way. I'm just going to build it and let you guys see how it's getting built out. Alright guys, so we're pretty much done with the whole thing. All we have left now is when we come over to the button class name here, we can just add in this, which is just text white, pattern Y of 2, pattern X of 5, rounded, and transition. And that's pretty much it. So this is the whole code here. And now we can head over to our register component. So within our register component, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did for the nav. So I'm going to show you the logic and how it works, and then I'm going to just speed run through building out the register form. So what we want to do first here is we want to make sure that this states, well, let's go back. So we want to make sure that this states use client. Let's go ahead and save that. Now we can come over and click this register button, and it's going to take us right to register. We can't see it right now because this nav is blocking it, but we're going to go ahead and fix that when we work on our CSS. So what we want to do first here is we're going to import Axios from Axios. We're going to be using the use effect. So we're going to come over here and we're going to state use effect. We're also going to be using actually, we're going to be using use state, not use effect. So use state. Awesome. So we're going to be using use state, and then we're going to be using next navigation for use router. So import use router, and it's going to be next navigation. And then lastly, we're going to be using import use auth. There we go. Awesome. So now we can come over here and we can just start writing stuff out. We can start writing logic out. So here we want to say const username set username is equal to use state, and here's this, and then it's going to be const password set password is equal to use state. And here it's going to be const email, and it's going to be set email is equal to use state null. Lastly, we're going to have const error set error is equal to use state, and this is going to be null. So this is actually going to be a string, not null. And here we're going to have const router is equal to use router. And as we go on, we're going to see how this works. So now we want to write our handle submit function. So const handle submit is equal to async. And this is going to be e.prevent default. Then we're going to say try catch. And for try, we're going to say const. Remember, we're destructuring it. So status here is going to be registration status, registration status. And this is going to equal await axios.get/API/register. Here we're going to say email. So we're sending back the email, the password, and the username. So after we do that, we want to set email to an empty string, set password to an empty string, and we want to set username to an empty string. Great. And now we also want to set error to null. Great. So now we want to give it another function. We want to say if, we want to give us some other logic. So here we're going to say if register status is equal to 200, meaning it's successful, then we want to say const status login status is equal to await axios.post/API/login username password. And if login status is equal to 200, then we want to state await fetch data, and this is going to be router.push/hero. So what does this mean? So all we're doing here is basically we're creating this handle submit function where we're going to be passing in the email, password, and username to the backend, and then we're going to have this two-part logic saying if register is successful, like registration is successful, then we want to log in automatically. So we want to post to API login the username and the password that we have in here, and then if the login status is 200, then we just automatically push to the hero page. So that way, if you register, you don't have to register and then go to the login page and log in. Once you register, it logs you right in. That's exactly what this function is stating. So now with the catch, so let's do this. Now with the catch, we can now state if error.response and error.response.status is equal to 409, because that's what we set it in the backend, then we want to set error to user already exists. Please log in. Else, we want to state set error to an error occurred. Please try again. There you go. And now we can state where's this? There we go. Console error, and we can say error and error. Let's fix this really quickly. There we go. So now we can go on to our return here. So for this, I'm going to speed run through it. In fact, not even speed run through it. I'm just going to copy and paste from my own project into here, because we should already know how to create a register and login page. So it's nothing new that I'm adding. I'm just going to create it using CSS and add in the functions we have here into it. And that's it. So I'm going to copy and paste it right now. Great. So here's our register form. So as you can see, this just has the typical handle submit. We have an error here, an error message that inputs here if there's an error, username, the email, and the password input fields. And then we have a register button. So you can go ahead and configure this however you want. I can slow scroll through this in case you guys want to just pause it and see what's going on in every line. So we have the return here, and then we have this, and then we have this. And I'm just going to keep scrolling down slowly so you guys could see it. Awesome. So if you were able to pause that, you would be able to see the whole thing. However, you guys don't really have to do that, because the repo link is going to be posted to it at the end of this project. So not necessarily this part, but the end of the whole project, I'm always going to post the repo, the repository link, so you guys can go ahead and clone it or just view it, whatever you want to do. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do the register. So let's create our login first, and then we're going to create our login input field, so that way we can also have a login input. Then we can create our hero page, and then we can test everything at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we are in our login component. So in order to go to our login route, we just have to go to this, or we can go register and then go back to login, and we're right back here. So for login, it's going to be similar to what I just did in register. I'm going to show you how the function works, how the logic works to log in, and I'm just going to copy and paste the field for the login. So for login, it's going to be something similar to register. Here we're just going to have the import, we're going to be use using use router, and this is for navigation. Let's go ahead and wrap that. And then here we're going to say import use auth. There we go. And then we're going to state import Axios. There we go. So let's see, failed to compile, blah, blah. Oh, so we forgot to use client up here. So that's important. Awesome. So there we go. Now for login, what we're going to state is const. So we're going to be using our state hooks. So use username, set username is equal to use state. We can say const password, set password is equal to use state, same thing. And since we're only going to be using username and password to log in, we can just go straight to our error. Set error is equal to use state, and this use state is going to be the same thing. There we go. Now we're going to say const fetch data, and we're grabbing this from use auth. Cool. And here we're going to say const router is equal to use router. Cool. So it says use state is not defined, so we forgot to import it here. So we're going to say use state. There we go. So we're good there. So now, as usual, we're going to now create our handle submit. So const handle submit is equal to async e. I'm going to say e.prevent default. And here we're going to say try catch. For try, we're going to say const status login status is equal to await axios.post /API/login. And here it's going to be password and username that's being passed to the backend. And here we're going to say await fetch data. So we're running that fetch data function from our auth context, and then we're going to state set username to an empty string and set password to an empty string. Now the logic is going to be if, let's come up here, if login status is equal to 200, then we want to state await fetch data, and we want to router.push to /hero. Awesome. So it's pretty much the same idea that we're using. So that's what we're doing here. The same one we did in register. So we're doing the same thing here similarly. So it's a pretty easy logic to understand. So here we're going to say console.log error, and we're going to state console.error login in, and here it's going to be error. So here we want to state set error, and this is going to be error dot response dot data dot message. Awesome. Is this how we want to spell login in? Should be a G here. There we go. Awesome. So that's pretty much the idea. So we're saying if there's login status of 200, then await fetch data, and then we're just going to push to the hero page. Here we're passing things down to the back end. That's pretty much it. So for the return statement, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste my login form as well. So it's going to look very similar to that of register. It's just not going to have the email component, the email input field, I mean. So this is what the login page looks like when you return this input field. So it looks like this. This is the code for it. Like I said, I'm going to be posting the repo link so you guys can look at that later on. But I'm just going to scroll down so you guys can see what I have so far. So you guys could see that part. And then we're just going to go down. As you can see, we have the username there. This is the input for that. and then we're going to go all the way down to password. So for password, it's all the way down here. And then we're going to have our login button. So we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to see our submit button, which is going to be our login button. So this is going to be all the way down here. So that's pretty much it. So that's all that is for login. So now if you do anything, it's not really going to work because we don't have a hero page that it's being pushed to. So let's go ahead and create our hero page, and then we'll be able to see what goes on with our hero page. So in order to build our hero section, what we want to do is we want to come back here, and for components, we're just going to have a new file, and that file is going to be called hero.jsx, and we're going to do RAFCE as usual. Great. So let's actually open this up all the way. So let's save that. And then what we want to do is we want to come over to our source folder, to our app folder. And here we're going to create a new folder, and this is going to be called hero. And for hero, we're just going to make a new file, and this is going to be called page.js. And then we'll go ahead and save that. So now we can come over to register, and we're just going to copy all this and go back to hero. So within the page.js, we're going to paste that in there, except we're just going to take out register, and we're going to call this hero. Awesome. So here we have our hero component within the route. So within this route, we're going to have things like the comics and the characters and things like that. But for right now, let's just go ahead and create that hero page, because the hero page right now is, if you go to middleware, it's one of the pages that you need to be registered to go into. So we're not going to be able to view anything within the hero page until we log in. So let's go ahead and create the hero page. Let's go ahead and create everything for the hero component, and then we're going to be able to go log in and go to that hero section. So in order to build out this component, what I need to do is leverage Canva. So I'm going to be using the website Canva to build out my hero banner. So the way I go about that is, first, this is what I mean by the hero banner. So I want to create this portion. So what I need to do is I need to go over to Canva, and I have a premium account, but you guys can use a free account for this. So I want to go over to customize size or custom size, and I'm going to be using 1920 by 800 pixels. So it's going to come up with this design template here. And then I want to go over to Google, and I'm going to type in top 5 Marvel characters, and I'm going to find an image. So as you can see, we have this. So this is the image that I use. So I can go ahead and just copy this image. So copy image, close that out, and then come right here and just paste this image here. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm just going to make all of my background black, not brown. There we go. And then for the image, I can go ahead and just remove the background. So as you can see, the background's been removed. So all I have to do now is just pull this way. So the image I found was a little bit more clear than this. So because of time, I couldn't really find the exact image that I used. But if you go and search like Marvel characters wallpaper 4K or something along that line, it's going to show you something like this. So I can go ahead and use the same image that I already found that I used. So I'm just going to go over to my uploads and just paste that in there. So this was the exact image that I used. So if you guys don't want to use this exact image, like I'm saying, you can use whatever image you want, and then all you have to do is just make it big enough for it to look good as your banner. So here I just want to make sure it's centered, and when you do this, you're also going to realize that when you upload it or use it as your banner, you can come back and make changes. Maybe it's not centered well enough or this or that. You can do that. So we're just going to call this YouTube Marvel banner. And another trick is when you want to save it, just go ahead and hit share, and then you want to hit download. And when you hit download, make sure you share it. The file type is JPG, and then you want to make sure the quality is 100%, and then you can go ahead and download that. So remember, we're saving it as YouTube Marvel banner.jpg. .jpg. So what we can do is close out of all of this. So now we can come back to our project. Let's close out of that and let's minimize this. So now we can come to our project and we can go over to public over here, and we just want to drag and drop what we have within our downloads. So as you can see, we've gone ahead and dragged the downloaded file into the public folder. So this is what we have. It's the same thing we saved. Now we can go ahead and just rename it, and we're just going to call this Marvel Home or something. Yeah, so we can name it this. So now we have what we need for our banner. We can come down here, we can close out of that and come right into hero, and here we're just going to be importing that and using CSS to change things. So here for our hero component, what we're going to state is within this return, we're just going to say div, and we're just going to go straight to class name, and for class name we're going to say relative. We're going to say width is full, height is full. We're going to have an overflow of hidden and padding top of 7 view height. Awesome. And now within this div, we're going to have the image. So let's do this. And this image source is going to be, let's just say slash, and it's going to be slash whatever we named it within the public folder. So it's going to be slash marvel home.jpg. Now the alt is going to be, so we're going to say alt is equal to, and this is just going to be called Marvel banner. And then we're going to have width, and width is going to be 1920 because that's what we have it as when we saved it. And for height, we're just going to go with 700. And then for style, we're going to state, let's do this, is equal to, and here we're going to say object is going to be, this should be lowercase, is going to be fit. Actually, it's going to be object fit is going to be cover. And then we're going to have priority is going to be true. Now we can go ahead and close this out. So let's see. So this is what we have so far. So let's see if it works. And the way we see if this works, we have to do a couple of things. So let's go over to register. So the component. So for those of you who already try to register, you probably are encountering an error. That's because of at least 3 things. So when I wrote this, I think this should have said set password, but I believe it was in lowercase. So I went ahead and changed it post edit, but I forgot to save it and then show you guys what the change was. I mean, I forgot to comment out what the wrong one was and then show you what the right one was. So I'm going off of memory here. So here it says set password, but I believe it was in lowercase rather than in camel case like this. So this has to be in camel case for set password. At the top here, this should have been a post request, not a get request. And then for status should be the same thing as register status here. So this should not have been registration status. It should just been a register status and register status. So this too should be the same thing. Status here should be register status, and if register status is 200. So these should have been the same. And then at the bottom here, I just went ahead and changed this catch error. So I have this as a brand new catch error. So I have if error.response and error.response, the status is 409, then set the error to user already exists, please log in, else set error to an error occurred, please try again. And then lastly, we can just console.error, console.error, and then error. So that was pretty much it. I don't think there was anything I had to change here. All this was fine. So for the most part, it was just I think here also we had to change this to camel case for set password, and that was pretty much it. So that should work. If it doesn't, leave a comment in the comment section, because I think those are the only 3 things that needed to be changed. I forgot to just comment out what wasn't working and show you guys the difference, but I'm pretty sure it was just those. I'm pretty sure it was just those 3 things. So you should be all set once you make that change. For login, that works. I don't remember seeing any syntax error there. So with that said, now let's go over and minimize this. And now we can go over to register. So when we go to register, now if we go to username, we can just say test1. Email will be test1@test.com, and then password will be test 1. So if we go ahead and hit register, it takes us right to that hero page. As you can see, it says hi test 1, and when we click this, it covers the whole page because right now it's in sort of a mobile view. And then if you click this X, it closes right out of it. And this is our banner that we just created, so it works perfectly fine. Also, if we hit logout, we're completely good. So right now it just takes us to the login screen. Remember, you can hit register to take you to register, and then you can hit login and take you back to login. And for the username, since we already registered, let's see if it works. So test1, well, it should be test1, and then password test1. So if we log in, there we go. So we're back logged in. So as you can see, our hero banner worked perfectly, and our login and register and registration form works as well. So with that said, now if we look at the actual project we're trying to build, you can see that what comes next is this discover comics section. So this is what we're going to be building out. So first we're going to start with the backend to push the information to the front end. So this is the next step. What we're going to quickly do is we're going to create the comic the comic model for saving our comics in our database. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we want to do is close out of this and close out of this, and then we can come straight to model right here. So if we close out of everything else, you're gonna see that it's within let's just close out of all of this. It's within our source folder, and you'll see model, the same place we have the user.js. Instead, this is going to be a new file, and this is just going to be called comics.js. So, or you can, let's rename it as comic.js. There we go. So now within this, we can now import Mongoose from Mongoose, and then we can come over and just create the schema. So it'll be comic schema, and it's going to equal, and this is going to be new Mongoose, not Mongo, Mongoose, and dot schema. And now we're going to create our schema for this. So the schema is going to be written the same way the API data is being fetched. So the same structure that Marvel API sends the data in, the same JSON structure is the same way we're going to write out our comic schema, is the same way we're going to save our schema within the database. So here we're going to say comic ID, and this is going to be a string. So what this comic ID does is it's used to uniquely identify each comic. So for example, if we're trying to get saved comics or a specific comic, we can refer to that comic ID. So now we can also have title, and all this is going to be in lowercase, so title, and this is also going to be a string. We're going to have description, and this is going to be a string. Now for thumbnail, this is going to be an object, and it's going to have the path, which is going to be a string. So string, and we're going to have the extension, which is also going to be a string. So for Marvel API, the way we get the thumbnail is we have to have the path and the extension. So now we're going to have the URLs, and this is just going to be a string. It's an array of strings. Okay, what's wrong here? Let's see. Oh, we didn't put a comma here. There we go. And if anyone knows how to take out that suggestion, so like all this, like when I'm typing and that suggestion like blows up, let me know in the comment section, because I don't want to Google it. So, but if you guys don't know, then I guess I'll Google it. But yeah, so for example, let's see if it pops up again. But for user, what we're going to say is type, and the type here is going to be mongoose.schema.types.object ID. And we're gonna say, oh, this is what I mean. So you see how this comes up? Do you guys know how to like just not have that pop up? So if you guys do, let me know in the comment section. So here we're gonna say reference to user. So it's gonna basically when we save something, we want it to be saved to a particular user. So this is going to be a reference to a user, and then we're going to say required is true. Got it. So here it's going to be user, type is mongoose.schema.types.object.id, comma, reference to user, comma, required is true. And then lastly, we're going to have something called saved, and this is going to let the user know if the item has been saved in the database. So when we call items from the database that's saved, for our saved page, we need the items that's within our saved page to have the saved field as true. So here we're going to say type is Boolean. We're going to say default is going to be true. And all this is going to make sense once we actually, let's do this. There we go. So all this is going to make sense once we actually start implementing this in our front end. You're going to see what we mean, or when we start writing the logic in our back end, you're going to see how all this is going to come together. Now we can input timestamps. So timestamps, and this is going to be true. Awesome. Now we can export it. So we're going to say export default mongoose dot models plural dot comic, or mongoose dot model, and then we're just gonna say comic, and this is gonna be comic schema. There we go. So just like that, we have everything what's it called? Just like that, we have everything set up for our schema. So this is what it's going to look like for our schema. And lastly, all we're doing is exporting it. So just like that, we're pretty much done with this part. In our next part, we actually start building the backend and seeing things come to fruition when it comes to our data. So we're going to see our data get used in the front end to display things such as the comics, the characters, and the titles. For right now, we're taking it step by step just so it's not overwhelming. So in this one, what we did was we created our login functionality, our login, our register, and our logout. So what we need to do, and we started with our hero page. So we created the banner for it. So what we're doing next is finishing up that hero route. So everything we're going to see on our hero page, we're finishing it up on the next one, or at least we're going to attempt to finish it up on the next one. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you do enjoy the series, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.